Council, come to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mandy, would you please call the roll? Here.
Here. Butler.
Here.
Carlstone.
Here.
Dan Stryland.
Here.
Coughlin and Saxon.
Okay. Can I get a motion for approval of our tentative agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Support. Branderhorst, Carlstone. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst. Yes. Carlstone.
Yes.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Butler.
Here. Yes. Motion passed. This time we have opportunity for public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, you can please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
John Bantra, Manhasset County residents. Tonight, the council has the opportunity to show leadership. On the consent agenda tonight is approval of the airport minutes. If you read the minutes of that agenda, you will notice there are several issues with the current airport. They should be addressed and taken action upon. Or you could choose to ignore it like you did with the South Central Regional Airport, which you have board members of, chosen by the council. The actions taken by that board and lack of oversight by the council has led Manhasset County to take action in writing a letter to the DOT opposing the annexation of the land owned by the SCRAA, and which will further complicate building a new airport and make it more important to take care of the current airport that you have. Now, the question to you folks is, do you prefer to bully pulpit for more tax money, as stated by one of your members, or is it better to take care of the assets you already have and use them properly in taxes and assets to look out for the people in Pella? Because the decisions being currently made are raising your Pella taxes. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
DeYoung, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Branderhorst. Yes. Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Dan Stryland.
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, moving on to a new Class C retail alcohol license for Tammany Hall. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. For those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. As Mayor DeWart stated, tonight we're entertaining a request from Tammany Hall. Specifically, this request is for a new 12-month Class C retail liquor license. If approved by the City Council tonight, it would be effective on March 1st of this year. We do have a little bit of background on Tammany Hall. They've held this license since 2020. It is important to note that the new license allows the establishment to sell alcoholic liquor in addition to wine and beer that's allowed in with the current license. Now, equally important to note, the application has been filed online with the state of Iowa, and staff is recommending approval this evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Branderhorst and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst. Yes. Dan Stryland.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Abstain. Motion passed. Moving on, a new 5-day Class C liquor retail alcohol license for Great Caterers of Iowa, Inc. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor DeWart stated, this request comes to us from Great Caretakers of Iowa. They're located in Pleasant, Illinois. What they've applied for is a 5-day Class C retail liquor license, which approved by council would be effective on February 24th of this year. Now, this is in conjunction.
You will now be placed into the conference.
As well at the Premier Louisville Pavilion on the 24th. Equally important to note, the application has been completed online with the state of Iowa, and staff is recommending approval this evening.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Van Strylen,
Support.
Randerhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, petition for creation of a footpath between Boss Ridge and Boss London. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, tonight we are going to be discussing a petition that we did receive from the residents of Boss Ridge. And this particular petition comes to us to construct a bike trail or a walking trail that would connect the Boss Ridge subdivision with the Boss London subdivision. And we do have the map of the respective subdivisions up on the big board. And tonight we have Mr. Joel Weiler, who will be representing the Boss Ridge residents here to speak on behalf of the petition.
Thank you, Council, Mayor. First off, can I do a show of hands from Boss Ridge residents? Thank you guys very much for coming. So we just wanted to have a, show of support for this. Dead of winter, dog days of summer, there's always people walking and biking around our neighborhood. So as you can see on the map, there's not a lot of ground to cover there. So just from a quality of life perspective, we feel like this is a good addition. I think it's mutually beneficial for Boss Landon as well. So just based on the number of strange cars we see driving through the neighborhood every day, I think there's a good amount of traffic there. And just all the walking and bike traffic in Boss Landon, I think would utilize that as well. So not a civil engineer, but there's not a great way to do it. So we realize there's some geographic challenges there, but we would like to request that you guys look into how we can make that possible. So anything to add from Boss Ridge?
Okay, any council have any questions for Joel?
Is there a route up there? I can't. You have okay, no route. Just do something.
Yep, deferring to the engineers. You guys will figure it out. You'll do great.
Did the developer consider this when coming online?
I know him well, and we talked about it, but did not have a solid plan to connect those.
So is there a difference between a sidewalk and a footpath? Just
That I don't know. Yeah.
okay. Where's Denny?
Are you thinking bike path level?
We'd be happy to get information.
That's more like 8 or 10 feet.
I think, not to speak for the whole group, but I think we'd be tickled with a sidewalk connected.
I just wondered what Denny's thoughts were on this.
I don't like to use the word impossible, but I think you're about there on this one. The topography of the loan, you pretty much, whether it's a trail, sidewalk, in our world, we're supposed to meet ADA, as far as slopes, ramps, no steps. And then the other problem is, the golf course, you're not supposed to be out there unless you're a paid golfer.
Yeah.
So if you mix strollers and babies and toddlers and people walking on a trail amongst people driving the ball, that's, major safety hazard. So you start looking at it, there's really no way out without crossing the course other than getting out along T15, which then you have to ditch. Because all that grade was left high. So it's a tough one. I don't see any silver bullets. I don't know what the engineers are going to do, because it's steep topography getting down out of there, but you're not to have walkers and hikers on a cart path on a golf course either. Now, whether some trails there's lenience on maybe ADA on slopes, even T15, that slope may even come close to exceeding ADA, but it's an existing roadway, so you're allowed to parallel with the sidewalk. Some of that then trips into resting areas every 50 feet, which means you have to put a flat spot that's, I think a minimum 5 by 5, something like that. So there's a lot here that's working against the particular idea, unless, somehow it goes north and clear up through the timber and around. It's a tough one.
Dovetailing with that, for a decade or more, people have been saying, how come we don't have a sidewalk coming back into town from West Casey's, to Walmart? So we've got another big package. If we run a trail there, people are going to say, how come we haven't looked at the safety of people walking, the other way? we're talking about Starbucks and some of these things, we're running into that issue too, if we do that. So we got a lot of things going on if we do something like this.
Councilmember Ben Stryland, that was the point I forgot to make as well. So the other thing I feel like we somewhat have going for us is based on the, I can't remember what year that long-term plan was published for the city. You know, this would tie this neighborhood back in through Boss and then on the proposed path to Washington.
Mr. Wiley brings up a good point. When the city last performed its comprehensive plan or adopted the comprehensive plan, Boss Bridge wasn't even in existence at that point in time. And so what our recommendation would be is that we look into this, just due to the number of residents that signed the petition. I think it warrants a review. But also specifically during the review, as council is aware, we're going to be updating the city's comprehensive plan this year. Now, as a part of it is a review of the master plan for the trail system. And that's really the first key point, is to get on the master plan and identify the segment of the route of the master plan. And so that's when we would perform the review on this. In addition, we would also be looking on the sidewalk or bike path from the west side of town down to West 8th Street, West 9th Street, right in that neighborhood as well.
Okay, anything else? So yeah, I say we're just, as Mike said, we're just gonna start the process of update on the comprehensive plan. So I know the trails are all part of that discussion, so that'll be included in that. So.
We appreciate your consideration on that.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Habitat for Humanity request for low and moderate income funds. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the request that we have tonight comes to us from the Habitat for Humanity out of Marion County, and specifically what they've made a request is to use the city's low and moderate income funds to support their critical home repair program. We do have information on the critical home repair program that we have included in the council packet. Now, overall, from city staff standpoint, we are supportive of Habitat for Humanity, but the one key item that we have is any funds that would be used from the City of Pella, particularly LMI funds, we feel would need to be used for projects within our corporate limits as well. So that would be the one condition. Now, before we turn the floor over to Ms. Amy Meyer, if she's in attendance tonight, specifically our recommendation is that we further discuss this item during the 2025 budget process that we have. And just for council to get an understanding of what we forecast as far as funds, we have about $45,000 we believe we'll have in low and moderate income funds available this fiscal year. Next year it'll be another $55,000.
When you say this fiscal year, you want the
through
current end?
Yes, the one that ends in June 30th, 2024, and then starting July 1st next year, we believe that amount will be another $55,000.
So we're in close to 100,000.
That is correct.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Amy Meyer. I'm the Director of Habitat for Humanity in Marion County. I know that Habitat's known for building new houses, but we also have a very active critical home repair program that I just want to talk about for 1 minute. Last year we did about $200,000 worth of critical home repair, so it really is anything that's critical. So we do a lot of roofs, we do HVAC systems, we do people who need accessibility increases in their homes, so things like ramps, walk-in showers, that kind of thing. But we see a great demand for it, and we're happy to use a series of funding. We get some funding from USDA, we get some funding from the Central Iowa Housing Trust Fund. That's where the majority of it comes from, and they do require a local match, which is why I've gone to all the cities in Marion County and requested a piece of it. To Mike's question about making sure it stays in Pella, we pay the match when we ask for the reimbursement. So if we get a project in Pella, we would submit that reimbursement, and at that time we could then ask for that 25% match from the City of Pella. So I think we could ensure that it would stay within the city limits. We would also do increased outreach in the City of Pella. We've had really good luck with putting flyers in water bills in Knoxville and Bussy and Melcher, Dallas. So we could do that in Pella as well and get the word out a little bit, because I don't think that everyone knows that this is available to them.
Okay. Any questions, anyone?
Is there much demand in Pella at present?
So last year we did 2 roofs in Pella, spent about $32,000. But yeah, the more people we tell, the more they know. The income guidelines are pretty high, so a lot of people would qualify for it. And we also have some COVID funds coming down still from federal ARPA dollars that we could use as well. So they can do up to $35,000 per house. So there's a lot of good that can be done, I think, with that as well. It'd be great to partner with Pella and get the word out here about what's available.
So an education effort is in order.
Yes, definitely.
And Habitat sets of parameters or what would qualify and all that, right?
Yep, so it has to be critical, it has to be owner occupied, so they have to prove to us that they live there. But yeah, we have our construction manager go take a look at the project. Sometimes we have to kind of rank the most important things. Sometimes there's 10 things that need done in a house, so we kind of prioritize, and then we get bids, and contractors come out and actually complete the work.
So you said it had to be owner occupied. Is there a time frame once you do a project? Say you get $35,000 into a home. Is there a time frame the owner has to stay there?
Yeah, we ask for 3 years.
Is that a requirement?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, as much as we are able to know and follow through on it, yeah. But there's no lien done or anything like that, yeah.
If there's a list of 10 things, they get a roof 1 year, can they reapply the next year to do the HVAC or whatever?
For what funding we have, yep. We haven't seen people come back for more.
Okay. So you're seeking direction. You're going to talk about it in the budget for next year.
Yeah, it'll be a part of the city's budget, city administration's budget proposal. We'll formally discuss that and the request from Habitat for Humanity. Tonight was just informational background on the program.
It appears there's plenty of support from the council to explore it. So.
Okay.
Great,
Thank you. Okay, moving on to resolution number 6657, entitled Resolution Approving an Agreement pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 28E between Marion County, Iowa and the City of Pella regarding allocation of local option sales tax and services tax revenues. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and as Mayor DeWart stated, what we're entertaining this evening is the proposed 28E agreement with Marion County for a local option services, sales and services tax redistribution agreement. This is very similar to our agreement that expired on December 31st of 2023. It is important to note that the proposed agreement we're discussing this evening was discussed by the City Council on January 2nd, and at that time, Council instructed staff to formal consideration of the agreement that we're talking about tonight, or discussing tonight. Now, as far as some of the key items on the agreement has the same financial terms as the previous agreement, which basically requires Marion County to reallocate 8% of countywide sales and services tax, or local option sales and services tax, to the City of Pella. The reason for that, or the driving reason for that, is Pella supplies or provides over 64% of local option taxes to Marion County. So this redistribution agreement actually increases that, plus our state allocation has traditionally made I'd say the distribution of local option taxes more palatable to the City of Pella. Now, the term of the agreement that we're discussing this evening is a 2-year term, so it would be for calendar year 2024 and calendar year 2025. Equally important to note, during our previous session, when we discussed this item, Council was in favor of reevaluating the local option sales and services tax and looking at potential other revenue sources as well. Staff will be scheduling that for a future policy and planning session. So let's go ahead and talk about the 2 new items that we have in here. The first item in there's a section in this agreement that requires the county, or both parties would agree, that of the amount that would be redistributed to the City of Pella, $25,000 of that would be designated as Marion County's local match for the Enhanced Iowa grant that was submitted from the City of Pella for the Pella Indoor Recreation Center, and that is a requirement of the Enhanced Iowa grant. And in addition, this also allows the parties to terminate the agreement if the state passes any legislation that would materially change the local option sales and services distribution funds. And this was a request by Marion County, and staff believes that's a very reasonable request. A few other items of note is traditionally the redistribution agreement has provided the City of Pella with approximately $440,000 on this and additional funds for the city, which we're very appreciative. I would also like to thank the Marion County supervisors on this item. Traditionally, Marion County, at least as far as staff is aware, this is the only redistribution agreement that we're aware of in the state, and they've been very good to work with from city staff's perspective. So we would like to thank the supervisors for being supportive of this agreement. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So,
Carl Stone,
Second.
Butler, discussion?
Yeah, first of all, item 10 is legal jargon that I just plain don't understand. If Mike could help, or if Fred could help. This agreement may be executed in any number of counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original, and all of which shall constitute but one and the same instrument.
I believe that just addresses that the signature pages on the agreement. And originally, this may have been some carryover from the original agreement that we had in Marion County. If you remember, the city of Knoxville was also a party to the agreement, so you had 3 parties and 3 different signature pages on it. So that's what I believe that was just simply a carryover provision from the previous agreement. It may not be applicable to this agreement.
And then paragraph 11 raises a concern in my mind. Do 28E agreements mean anything anymore after the court ruling on the airport?
I think the lesson with that is a valid point, but ultimately it's like any contract that you enter into, it's only as good as the parties that enter into the agreement keeping their word on the matter. And I can say and speak for Marion County, they've kept their word, and they've been very good to work with. So.
Anybody else? We had pretty lengthy discussion about this a few weeks ago in policy and planning, so.
Gotcha, I'm not trying to nitpick.
No. I think we had a lot of discussion about it. Hasn't really changed how we feel about it, but I think direction at that time was to do a 1 or 2 year agreement as is, and then, as Mike said, explore maybe other options or whatever for long term. I think Knoxville, did they do a 10-year agreement?
Knoxville,
Or
I
5?
believe, I think Knoxville is a 5.
So the county still has to accept this, right?
Yeah,
Said the 13th, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's scheduled to be on their agenda for the 13th.
indications from them is that they'll accept the same. We were trying to get a higher percentage based on the facts of the case, which were ignored. But I think they've said they would accept the same percentages, so we're assuming acceptance, but we'll find out, I guess. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll vote on the resolution. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Carlson?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Dan Stryland?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Reindeerhorst?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, abstract of bills number 2144. Can I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Support.
Horse, Carl Stone. Any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Reindeerhorst?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Dan Stryland?
Yes.
DeYoung?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion passed. Any council member have any other business you would like to address this evening? All right, any member of the public have any other business that you'd like to address council with this evening? If so, please step forward to the microphone, state your name, address, try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Ron Haynes, 1431 Broccoli Street. I know this is budget season, and every year I get to write 2 tear-soaked checks for my property taxes. With that being said, rumor has it Boss Landing loses $300,000 to $400,000 a year. Rumor has it now, it needs a new irrigation system, and the cost, $3 million. I question, wouldn't you be better off doing two options, selling Boss Landing at a very much sale discounted price, or just let it grow up, close it? I think you are putting too much money in investment into something that your rate of return, you're never going to get back. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so we will adjourn into our policy and planning, and our first item is the discussion regarding the residential waste, solid waste contract bid process. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item, and we're seeking direction tonight from the City Council, and specifically, this deals with our sanitation contract that we have with Midwest Sanitation and Recycling. As Council is aware, the current contract expires on July 31st of this year. And it is equally important to note the last time this item was bid was 2015, and Council, I believe, subsequently has approved two different extensions on this matter, and the third one was, I believe, last year for a one-year extension and an 8% increase in fees. And at that time, what we discussed was putting the contract out to bid when we did the last extension. And so what we're here to talk about tonight is just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as bidding the services this year. I will state for the record, before we start the discussion, the current provider of Midwest Sanitation, staff believes does an excellent job for the City of Pella. We've been very pleased with their services. But we do have a description up on the big board as far as the services that are involved with the sanitation contract, which is in addition to, it includes recycling as well as solid waste, and then we do have a community cleanup program as well. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Now, if Council would proceed with putting the contract out to bid, this is the rough timeline that we would be following. Early in March, we'd issue what's called a request for proposal. That response would be due in April this year, and then Council would formally consider a contract in May of this year, and on August 1st, a new contract would begin on this as well. So before we started the process with the RFP, we just simply wanted to discuss this item with Council on the matter and make sure that we're still on the same page that way before we get to this item, before we start the RFP process, Mr. Mayor. A little bit of background on the solid waste fees annually for the City of Pella. The fees in the last 5 years have ranged between $482,000 all the way up to $562,000 annually on it, and there is a fuel adjustment clause that's somewhat of a variable on this. That's basically a necessity now, or very common in sanitation contracts. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Questions, comments?
Well, I very much would like to see this stay local. We've got an excellent service, and I appreciate the local business, but I do think it is time, being fiscally responsible, that we put it out to bid.
I think it would be helpful to talk to Midwest and see what parameters could be changed on the bid. Starting earlier in the morning on certain streets, or I know where I've lived before, they only pick up recycling every 2 weeks, not every week. I don't have hardly ever have enough to haul out to the curb. That's me. I know other people have more than I do, but anyway, just get some ideas from the current provider. I think he's got some.
They're here. Can I?
Sure, you may ask some questions.
I'd love to hear.
Brian Vandermeyer, Midwest Sanitation. Thank you for, we worked hard a lot of years ever since I can remember, we've had the City of Pella contract. All the growing we've done over the years, the largest contract, the most important contract to us is still City of Pella. So when we say it gets a little personal, it does. It gets very personal. We want to make sure we provide the utmost service for our hometown. I jot down a list of 10 different things if we choose to go to bid of enhancements or different ideas I had to maybe make the process better, continue to make the program better as well. You know, we deal with a lot of different towns anymore, and they all envy the Pella program because we have such a wide range of different services with the yard waste, with 2 cleanups a year, with all kinds of different things that we bring to the Pella program that we may not bring to some other programs. So I'd love the opportunity to sit with staff and talk about those and look at bringing those up. And as I talked, I'd love to come to the table and not go to bid, but I don't know that that's an option. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. Brian, I have to tell you one thing. There were 2 things during the snowstorm that I was really impressed with. And they were not the amount of snow or the temperatures outside. It was that both our roads departments were on it and working, and you guys never missed a beat.
Nope.
You were still out there picking up trash. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was amazed by that, because a lot of trash haulers would have said, forget about it, too dangerous. But thank you. Thank you for your attention to detail. And I would love to see those 10 things, you know, or if we needed to create a round table, because I think people don't realize what a big undertaking this is. And you do your job so well, we don't notice you. And sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes it's also a problem. So just let us know.
Ditto. Service is great.
Yeah, I agree as well. I just have a learning question for my own sake. With city service contracts, whether it be paving a street or, I don't know, mowing our grass, if we don't have it in-house, do we have to bid it? Do we not have to bid it? How do you? Just from a public standpoint.
Generally, what we've tried to do is bid contracts. Council always has the prerogative to choose whether to bid services like this. That's why I think the original contract was in 2015. I may be a little bit off, but I know there's been at least 1, if not 2, if not 3, 2 to 3 extensions that's had. Council has the discretion to do that on it. Memory serves me correct, when we talked about this last time, we're likely going to be increasing garbage rates this year just because of the increase in contract costs, increase in city costs administering the program. And the thought was, at the time, if I recall the discussion, since we'll be increasing rates, we could potentially have additional rate increases above and beyond the 8%. If we were going to do that, I think the thought was that the services probably should be bid on it at that point in time. That was my recollection on it. But to answer your question, Councilmember Carlstone, council does have the discretion to bid the service on it. And that's traditionally what legal counsel's opinion has been on this matter. It is a rather large contract. It's at roughly $500,000 a year annually.
And it occurred to me kind of a similar thing is we award work to Garden and Associates all the time without going through the bid process. They're local, their service is great, but we don't go out to bid.
Right, right. What if Midwest came forward with a proposal to us and we took a look at it and decided, look, we don't even need to go out to bid? I mean, would that be something that people would?
Yeah, I'm just confused. Sometimes, we've sat to that county meeting a month or so, and had that closed bid opening kind of very formal process.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where you don't necessarily have to do any of that.
Let me clarify this. There's certain items like a public improvement project. There's no discretion on it. If you're constructing a street, most likely you're going to be putting it out to a public bid. It depends if it's defined as a public improvement project under Iowa law. All other projects, there is some discretion on it under Iowa law. So if you're constructing a street, that's one issue. Garbage services are another issue where there's not set in stone. It's at the discretion of the city in accordance with the city's purchasing policy on the matter. And that was the point, not the point, but that's one of the questions this evening, before we start the RFP process, we want to make sure we're all on the same page on it. So again, we're looking for direction on this item.
So something I don't know, in the past, Waste Management has bid, and they haven't for a while. Is Midwest the only game in town?
That we don't know, but you are correct, Midwest, yeah, not Midwest, but Waste Management, sorry, I got confused on the wording. Waste Management has bid the contract in the past, so.
So I have two questions. You've answered one. We don't have, it's not something we have to bid.
I'll double check with legal counsel, but that's been the past opinions.
So we can decide if we want to bid or we don't have to bid. If we decide to bid, then do some requirements kick into who we can accept the bid from?
Council, again, that's a legal question. The council, in looking at the service providers, I think one of the items that you would have as far as accepting bids, you'd have to go to the carriers, the service, the crack history, price, all those things factor in. And memory serves me correct, Denny, on as far as the RFP process, those are items that we try to get out additional information on the prospective bidders or the firms that would be bidding on the city's contract, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned increasing our waste fee that citizens pay. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's very likely to be increasing the garbage rates on the matter. What we tried to do when we did the extension last time of the 8%, hold it within the existing rates and City Council's correction, but it was discussed then that there's a need for a rate increase. Our largest line item in this fund is the contract that we use for the contract to provide a service, that our cost just went up 8%.
So we absorbed the 8% the last round, this past year, in our current fee structure.
And it doesn't appear to me that right now our options may be limited on absorbing any more rate increases.
Brian, what's the comment?
One other thing, I believe, if memory serves me correct, last year we tied it to the wage study, and it was 4.8%, not 8%.
I stand corrected, it was 4.8, that is correct, so,
Okay.
yes.
And we tied it to the wage study. Whatever the wage study was is what our rate increase was. And then, I guess my last point is, once again, we'd like to come to the table and make sure that, I was always taught by Grandpa John that the first deal is always the best.
And too, Brian, one of the things, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, you and I had a conversation, and you had some really great ideas of how your company was willing to reinvest in Pella with some programs and some things like that. And I think that's kind of an important piece to me, at least, when I'm looking at a bid from from a contractor, is are they willing to reinvest in the community? And I don't want to spill any surprises now, but there were some benefits that I thought that your company were thinking about bringing to the community that at some point I'd like to revisit some of those.
Yeah, that's with my list of 10 items, and I'm not going to bore you with those tonight, but one item is currently we start at 7 a.m. I would like to propose all the other towns that we service, we start at 6 a.m. And that gets us in and out of there quicker, because you can't believe if we're at 8 o'clock and we're in the traffic, we are in the traffic. And yeah, it's a big white truck, but we've been rear-ended 3 times in this. The last time the makeup was on the dash, you could see what the person was doing. And that was right on Washington Street. So we would like to get started at 6 a.m. due to the larger route and the ability to get out of some of the busy areas. You've probably heard us in the morning, our commercial guys that are doing the downtown district anymore, they're up and out of here because by 7 a.m. it's a mess. There's no room for a garbage truck. So That's one of my other ones. You know, the other thing that we've talked as a family about is the convenience center. In front of our building on 10th Street, we have 2 public drop-offs, and they are used, I mean, they can fill 3 containers in one weekend. I mean, there is somebody always there on the weekend. Having large bulky stuff such as a large TV that maybe doesn't fit in your tote, so you bring that cardboard box to our drop box. Some of that stuff that I think should be in the bid packet to make the contractor do. You need to have a local call center. You know, I've been, and this has nothing to do with Pella, but we're very in tune with the industry, and my dad served on the National Board of Governors for the industry, and a lot of call centers may not be based in America now, so you could call into a larger corporation's call center and you may be talking to somebody in India. Who knows? And they're going to say, where's Pella, Iowa at? Well, I want my trash picked up at 229 East 10th Street, and they're going to say, I don't know where that's at. So those are just some enhancements that I'd like to make to the RFP, if that's the route we go.
Thank you.
That certainly seems reasonable to make if this goes RFP, it has to be apples to apples for us to be able to make the right financial comparison. Having said that, I would love for y'all to talk this out, go over your 10, go over what our constraints are, et cetera, because it'd be great to keep it local. You guys do fantastic work. One thing I was thinking about as we were chatting about this is we throw all our recycling into one bin. Mm-hmm. I've lived in places where we've had to have like it all, you know, just the simplicity they allow us to have.
Right.
Second thing is now I know I can drop off the extra recycling. So this has been a helpful discussion because I'm always engineering like boxes to extend the recycling bins.
I always have plenty of room.
Super helpful. Thanks for that. So I just want to voice, we appreciate what you're doing. I do think that there's some due diligence. I think we are obligated to be sure that we're getting our best price for the service, but more than anything, if we do RFP, it's got to be apples to apples for your sake. You're right.
And the money that the city collects comes on the bill of garbage collection, does it get used for other things?
There's also on your bill a $1 service fee on there too that we have. It's called an environmental service fee. It's my understanding when this was set up, it predates my tenure with the City of Pella, but that was intended to reimburse the city for the costs that we have for special events during the year. One of the items that we have, for instance, tulip time on that, and we spend funds for special events. And so those cleanups that the city staff undertakes for the special events in town, was my understanding, was the reason it was set up, generates about $59,000 a year, that $1 service fee, but all other fees are basically paid to the contractor. And then Denny's crew has some additional costs too with the lines of totes that we purchase for the program as well.
But yeah, as new construction happens, of course, we're buying new totes for those new houses every day. You know, the tune of $80 a pop, the large, about 85 piece now. And the other thing that's included in the contract is large dumpsters at all city building sites, wastewater plant, water plant, public works. We all have, I don't know, 3-4 cubic yard dumpsters that are up once or twice a week.
Some larger one, roll-offs at the electric.
While we're at it, I'd love to see some recycling uptown. We go through these things, just our big events. It'd be great to have some green initiatives uptown.
Denny can add to it, but the barrels around the square are all city-owned, but we are contracted to dump them twice a week.
Yeah, I was trying to look at both of us because I think that's something we can do as well, pretty easily.
Any other questions for Brian? Thanks for being here. So I always try to get a feel for what I'm hearing because Mike is looking for direction. Here's what I think I heard to give to him. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the feeling from the council is let's have a conversation with these guys, kick around some of these ideas that maybe leads to some cost savings, because we really want to keep it here. Is that, am I reading it right?
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to allowable zoning districts for microbrewery use. Mike?
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board. And what we have this evening is a request that city staff receive. And this item deals with microbreweries on this. And I believe in the staff memo we have the definition of microbrewery. But we do have a picture of a brewery on this. And usually when we talk about the term microbrewery, this is usually a small brewery that oftentimes serves some sort of food, and with that also serves alcoholic beverages in addition, produces alcohol. Now, under the city zoning code, we consider the production of alcohol generally in an industrial use, but this type of microbrewery is also allowed in community commercial zoning districts. So we have a little bit of background on this. In 2018, when we established the zoning definition for a microbrewery, at that particular time, we required a special use permit for microbreweries to operate in commercial mixed-use corridor. That's commonly referred to as CUC, community commercial zoning districts, as well as the C Central Plan District. And I'm not sure we have anything that corresponds to that. So these are the two big items. So generally speaking, in 2018, we adopted the microbrewery ordinance. We allowed it in community commercial and also CUC districts. So when you look at our main commercial districts, the one district that is not allowed in would be the Central Business District. So if you were to go out on Washington Street, I believe, Jerry, past West 6, all the way to the corporate limits, is generally the community commercial zoning district on that. And then from West 6, basically to the downtown, is the CUC zoning district. South of here, I believe, once you get past the Pella Public Library, right around there is when it turns to CUC and extends all the way down to Oskaloosa Street, and from Oskaloosa Street out east on there to the eastern corporate limits is basically community commercial. So if you were to follow the main commercial corridors, that is community commercial zoning districts. And once again, what we're here, the request that we had tonight was the Central Business District, a request to locate in the Central Business District. Mandy, let's go to the next slide. And if you recall, we stated when we permitted it, there's two types of allowances or ability to operate under the city zoning code. There's an ability to operate what's called allowed by right, and that is if you have a use, it allows you to operate in that zoning district by right. There's also what's called a special use permit, and that's overseen by the Board of Adjustment. Now, the purpose of the special use permit is to look at those uses under the city zoning code that may be good fits for the location, or it may be a good use for the location, but it really depends on the location and what is being proposed, the intensity of what's being proposed. And that's the point of the special use permit. It's intended to help alleviate or address any type of land use compatibility issues with neighboring property owners. So basically what the Board of Adjustment would do is they would look at, someone would file with the board, with special use permit, the board would notify all the property owners within 200 feet of the property. They'd have a public hearing. If there was concerns about the use, they get a chance to voice those concerns to the Board of Adjustment. And the Board of Adjustment has a wide range of options to ensure land use compatibility with the neighboring property owners. We listed a few up there. They can also have restrictions on operating hour limitations. And then in the event that we do have issues or problems with the special use permit, the board has the right to revoke the license as well. And that's a pretty big hammer on the matter. So generally, we have not had to do that in Pella during my tenure as revoke a special use permit. We've had very good luck on special use permits. But I would also tell you it's quite a process going through the Board of Adjustment on it. And at the end of the day, we like to think that we've been able to find a win-win solution both with the applicant as well as the abutting property owners in most cases on this. So the request, once we had again, and Mandy, I think we got a map up here as well, is to be able to locate a microbrewery within the Central Business District. And the green highlighted area is the city's Central Business Business District. It is important to note, in comparing this item to another common zoning ordinance, it's very similar, would be a bar and tavern use in the city. And how we regulate bars and taverns in the City of Pella is in our community commercial zoning district and CUC zoning districts, or any type of zoning district where bar or tavern is allowed, it's required by a special use permit. So they go through the Board of Adjustment for that. In the Central Business District, I believe we have 2 special use permits that are licensed, and that's the maximum for a bar or tavern that can be issued in the Central Business District. Both of them are currently filled right now. And so what we would recommend, if City Council's in favor of allowing microbrewery use in the Central Business District, to be consistent with how we treat bars and taverns, would be likely, or at least for council's discussion, some sort of limitation on the number of special use permits that could be issued for microbreweries. The reality is, it's our understanding too, in discussions with various applicants, that the market forces may limit it as well, but be consistent with how we treat bars and taverns on there as well. The current license for a bar or tavern is 2. So we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss potential limitations of special use permits for microbreweries in the Central Business District. And I believe, Mandy, is there any additional slides on this item?
No, that's it.
Okay. With that, Mr. Mayor, we're seeking council's input on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'm ready for comments.
First off, whoever the entrepreneur is requesting this, I admire them. Nationwide, beer consumption is dropping like a rock. Microbreweries are going broke all over the place. Hopefully this person has deep enough pockets and enough initiative to make it go. I have no opposition to this.
One thing was going around, did you say this place would serve food? Would not serve food?
Well,
Or
under
could it
the
be optional?
Yeah, under the current zoning definitions, just to not belabor the point, microbreweries are not required to Jerry, help me out. They're not required to serve food.
They're not required to serve food, but they can if they so choose.
Yeah, they can. And commonly you also have another zoning definition, and I don't want to complicate matters, that's called a brew pub, which is basically a microbrewery that serves food.
Yeah.
So, and most of its sales,
50%.
yeah, and most of its sales are attributed to food. So.
So I guess my question, does anyone have opposition to, this would require an ordinance change for us to allow I can't say microbreweries, because the Board of Adjustments would help make those, but allow those in the Central Business District. Board of Adjustment still has several ways to restrict where and all of that, how many and all of that. But is there opposition to making an allowable use in the Central Business District? That's a question before us.
Was this the ordinance that helped Newton out greatly by?
Let's not bring up old.
I
I didn't hear any opposition, so
So, I mean, I think generally.
let's not open up old wounds.
Yeah, no, I'm not intending to do that. I just want to clarify because I wasn't.
Well, I know there was, yeah, I think some good definitions came out of some of that.
Sure.
A lot of learning.
2018 stuff. I think there were some definitions that
Yeah.
helping now to define some things, and so,
Yeah, Mark, I appreciate your comment, but ultimately I think it's up to the market to decide, you know, and I think our job is to regulate maybe amounts of and uses of. I personally initially been through a special use permit for Camry Hall, and it was a good process. It helps manage what we can and can't do, and there's teeth in it too. I think, Mayor, like you were referencing, so I feel like it's a very reasonable way to help regulate what's going on and where. So yeah, I don't have an opposition to this change, allowing a special use permit based CBD use.
I'm fine.
No, parking was an issue. I mean, it wasn't not permitted before. It was a parking concern, and downtown area, which is why they were gonna move out west.
Yeah, again, I think location would matter in that situation. I think Board of Adjustments could, have some say in that too. All right, I think that seems like moving forward.
Okay. There's one more question, and maybe I missed it too. As far as the next step on this item is we'll go down to planning and zoning on the matter, and we'll state the city council directed this item to planning and zoning. But as far as a high-level overview, when we permit microbreweries or in favor of at least reviewing an ordinance for microbreweries in the central business district, do we want to discuss the limitation or setting the number of maximum licenses that could be issued by the Board of Adjustment? Or would you like thought by P&Z on that matter?
I don't really see it being necessary.
Okay.
Let the market drive it, Mark, that's what you're saying? Yeah. And obviously the fear is gonna be that there's one on every corner, opposite of the banks, But I don't think that would happen just in the marketplace, for Mark's reference and just for pure volume's sake, so.
That's only in Wisconsin. If you're from Wisconsin, I'm not. It's bar on every corner. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, last item on our policy and planning is a discussion regarding proposed development agreement with Pella Retail Management Group for public improvements at 1808 Washington Street. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. As Mayor DeWart stated, what we have this evening and we're seeking direction on is a proposed development agreement with Pella Retail Management for specifically off-site public improvements. The two off-site public improvements we'll be discussing this evening are the extension of sanitary sewer to this site, as well as road improvements to West 9th Street. And I will state before we get into the terms of the development agreement, particularly with the road improvements, this is somewhat of a new issue for us. And so basically it could be a trendsetter as far as some sort of policy that we look into for needed off-site road improvements on this. The last item that I can think of that would be fairly similar would have been in 2006 and 2007 with the Walmart development right around that time period. Now, as far as just to orient everybody, if the map would extend over here, what you have over here would be the Walmart Supercenter that we have right here. And Washington Street is down to the south. And the screen highlighted area is the West 9th Street. It's 100% within the city limits on here. And currently, if you were to drive out there and take a look at this, this would be somewhat of an asphalt, gravel mixture road right here. What Pella Retail Management is proposing to do, and their site plan was approved with this, they're proposing to build a new commercial building located in here on this site. And the tenants that they have for the proposed building would be Starbucks as well as a T-Mobile office on this as well. It is important to note that the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve the site plan for the development. However, it was subject to the council approving a development agreement for the required off-site improvements, which would be the upgrade of West 9th Street, located right here, as well as the extension and sanitary sewer system to the site. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as the responsibility under this item, what we would have here, the developer's responsibility, and this is the approved site plan with the Planning and Zoning Commission, is they would be responsible for building all on-site requirements or improvements on there. So they would build the retail building along with the parking lots and everything on site. They would also be required to extend sanitary sewer to the site. That would be 100% at their cost. When we look at West 9th Street, we're going to be talking more about West 9th Street. Total cost to upgrade West 9th Street from the asphalt overlay, gravel mixture on there, this is roughly $440,000. What they would be doing is with Pella Retail Management is they would be reimbursing the city up to the maximum $220,000 for the project, so it's 50% of the project. And an easy way to look at this is if you look at the project and the total cost of $440,000, the developer would be paying for the portion of West 9th Street which abuts their property. So the city's share would be responsibility for the portion that does not abut the property if you wanted to go down the center lane of the road. And I would say from a policy standpoint, cities go about different ways in development matters when a developer comes on board and you have required off-site improvements. It's kind of a mixture on it. Some cities use special assessments to address these matters. Some cities enter into development agreements. And so there's not a clear path on this, and this is a philosophical issue for the city of Pella. Now, the city's responsibility is we would actually be the ones constructing the road improvement here, and we would construct the road to a 31, well, actually it'd be a regular city street. The estimated cost would be $440,000. Our share would be $220,000, so the developer would pay for half, and the city would pay for half. So Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Okay. Now, if council were to approve this agreement, what we would initially use, the funding source would be the city's road use tax funds. On the matter, we do believe that we could use our fund balance without, at this time, impacting any other city project that is currently scheduled for construction during this next fiscal year on this as well. However, I will like to mention that we do have kind of somewhat of a timing issue on this matter, as we are also in the process, if you recall earlier in the meeting, we talked about updating the city's comprehensive plan. We are working on an additional, for the west side of town, an additional urban renewal area. If we would like to include this project in our proposed urban renewal area, which we anticipate discussing with the city council over the next 30 days on it, we may be delayed in signing this contract on there and including the provision in this as well to include this project on it. So we have some timing issues that we're working with the city attorney's office on in this matter. But the big issue would be is if we were to do that, the theory would be is for the road improvement and view project. And then what we would do is at that time, if it was in the urban renewal area, is we would take the new property valuations from the new building that is being on board, and we'd apply about 75% of the property value, property taxes the city receives to pay ourselves back the $220,000 that we spent for the road improvement. So the payback on that, we believe, should be somewhere right around 7 to 8 years if we wanted to go through a TIF for the building on it as well. So again, we're looking for direction this evening on this matter, Mayor. And once again, I want to stress to the City Council, when you deal with developers, everything's pretty much cut and dry as far as requirements of the city. Once you get on site, it gets tricky once you start getting off site, particularly with road improvements and particularly gravel road improvements, existing roads that lead to sites. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, we are looking for direction and we'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
Gerald, do you have an estimated cost of the new development? Has that been discussed?
It was pushing approximately $2 million.
$2 million. Okay, questions, comments?
I'll start. I would prefer using road use tax dollars to do this, and it's kind of an oddball approach, but I view this as the first leg of the much-needed road out to the Catholic Church. Oh, you did.
Yes, I did.
And someone else is paying for half of it.
Yep.
So
No,
that's
I-
does that take us to the city limits?
Yeah, Mandy, if we could go back to the map, please. One more slide back. The city limits comes up here, and now I think, Denny, help me out, but when you get up between this property line right here up to the Catholic Church, there's a small portion that's within the city, I believe, on it further to the north. But by and large, this is, if we were to do the road project all the way out to St. Mary's, this is by and large the city's share of the project. Correct?
Some of it's keep houses in and some of it's out.
Yeah.
The left side of the road is not, it's all down.
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, if you recall, when we talked about the St. Mary's project on it, we had mentioned the potential project with the county where the cost would be about 50-50. The lion's share of the city portion of the project that's in the city limits is this green highlighted area that we're talking about this evening.
Well, I'm wondering how many coffee houses.
We'll find out.
Yeah, ultimately, that's the same argument.
Yeah.
Let's let the market decide.
Yeah.
They
It's nice that it is.
they obviously think there's need for one because they've purchased the land and everything else. So to me, it's a pretty good deal for the city. With the road, with that road being something that's been talked about for a long time, this is a great start. Plus, yeah, half of it's getting paid by somebody else. And the potential to include this in a bigger TIF district, you know, would be big for the city too. Could be, depending how much more development there is. Does anybody have a problem? Okay, an agreeable sort.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that's the extent of our discussion, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Island, Carl Stone, all in favor, say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
Carl Stone.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes?
Randall.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
We are adjourned.